Shalom. I'll start by giving all the praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh Bashem Yahushua Bashem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the elder apostles of the great millstone who rule well. And as always, peace and salutations to the hopefully like tabernacle of David, scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. And this is why the scriptures say, study to show thyself approved unto the Most High. Because when you read through them scriptures, then you'll be able to discern, between all the false prophets, as it is written, try the spirit by the spirit, whether they be of the Most High, because many false prophets are going out into the world. And there's way more false prophets, false teachers than true prophets and teachers. And the Lord did that because, that's how he's making the path, more narrow. All right. And scriptures tell you, there are false prophets among us that shall, privately bring in damnable heresies. And this is one of, the newer heresies. Alexander the Great and the Greeks were Israelites. And, this guy, he's the new, flavor of the week, so to speak. This guy Jephthah, the head of the one body in Yahweh Shai camp. Some tells me that guy is not all the way there. I could be wrong. But he's he's a little bugged out. He's animated. The dude's always trying to, a lot of these Israelite leaders, they try to be different. That's one thing that I do recognize that a lot of these guys, they say a lot of outlandish things. It's like they got to be the first to bring out something that's different just to stand, apart. They try to, bring out certain teachings just to, stand apart and have their followers, believing that these men are really deep men, but it's just manifesting that you're just another false prophet. You're another person that's of the circumcision whose mouth must be stopped, But anyway, just dealing with this heresy, Alexander the Great and the Greeks were Israelites. So the leopard or the he goat, that's Jake. The dragon, who came after the woman, that's Jake now, because he teach that Herod and the Herodians were Israelites. I wonder what's next, man. Where all the beasts, the four beasts that Daniel saw, were they all Israelites too? Were the Babylonians Israelites that conquered Jerusalem? Were the Assyrians, those Assyrian kings that took the northern kingdom captive, were those other Israelites too? It's just going to get worse and worse. But like it tells you in Timothy, but evil men and seducers shall wax worse and worse, deceiving and being deceived. So that's why you got to have that discernment. Learn these scriptures, man. Eat the whole roll, because you'll be able to determine, those who have the light and those who don't have the light. Isaiah 8:20. If they speak not according to this word, is because to the law and to the testimony. If they speak not according to this word, is because there is no light in them. And when you watch this 13-minute clip, you know, not one scripture was posted. He didn't put not one precept up. He's just going off of Greek, I guess ancient Greek texts from extra, you know, biblical sources, or if not biblical sources, just you know historical sources, which we all know not every book holding history is 100% accurate. You know, you gotta the spirit gotta be guiding you when you read through these extra books. That's why it tells you in Ecclesiastes 12, of the making of many books there is no end. All right, and you can bug yourself out like that. So you watch this video, and some of the art that he posts, some of it is Jake, during the time of when Jake was the Spartans. You had art depicting Jake back at the time when the Greeks were in power. But you also have early art of people of color that was actually occupying or inhabiting the ancient Greek provinces, because the original people that ruled over Greece and those European areas were actually the children of the sons of Japheth. Now, all you got to do is just go to the table of nations in Genesis the 10th chapter, where he goes into the family line of Shem, Ham, and Japheth. This is Genesis 10:1. It says, "Now these are the generations of the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and unto them were sons born after the flood." Then it goes immediately into the sons of Japheth. Now let's get this real quick. The sons of Japheth, Gomer and Magog and uh, Madai and Javan or Yawan, and Tubal and Meshach and Tyrus, and the sons of Gomer, Ashkenaz, which is a cut to the small hats that call themselves Ashkenazis. How could you call yourself Ashkenazi uh, Judites, but then you hold the title of the sons of Japheth? And then that's also a stumbling block because you have Israelites that teach that Esau goes back to Japheth because they occupy those Greek provinces that the sons of Japheth used to occupy. That's why you got to learn your history, man. You got to know biblical history and you got to know secular history. All right. The sons of Japheth originally occupied those European colonies in those islands, those Greek islands. All right. It says, and Riphath and Tergama, and the sons of Javan, Elisha and Tarshish, Kittim and Dodanim. All right. And then I'll read verse 5. It says, "By these were the isles of the Greek, of Slakia of the Gentiles divided in their lands, every one after his tongue, and their families and their nations." Now, let's look up Javan. All right, which is Yawan, one of the sons of Japheth. And what do you see? Ionia or Greece. Okay? Greece, Ionia, Ionians located, it's like your location of descendants of Yawan. So the original Greeks were actually from the sons of Japheth. They descend from Yawan, which was the son of Japheth. That's why you have dark images of the people that were originally there because they were a dark-skinned people, just like everybody on the earth at the time were people of color. All right, and all you got to do is go into the history, look up who the Etruscans was and who the Minoans was. Those were the sons of Japhet, and they had art depicting themselves. I believe they had the men depicted as dark skin, and they had women depicted with white color. Because they had to make the separation between male and female in the art, because they both the men and the women had long hair. You know, you got to look these things up. The apostles, went into this history a long time ago. I believe it's still on Daily Motion. So this guy took some of that Japhite art, and because they depicted as people of color, he insinuates that those are Israelites. So this guy, he's deceiving the people, or at least his congregation, you know. But we're studied, and we can see the error. This guy does not have the unction, all right. But whatever you bring out, it has to be consistent with biblical history. The scriptures got to back it up. We know damn well that Alexander the Creep was not an Israelite. Okay, so let's get into that, and we're going to prove that these actual Greeks that were actually in power and Alexander the Great, they were actually Edomites. And you can actually trace their line back to Haman, which was a Agagite, which the Agag he was a Amalekite ruler. All right, and we know that Amalek was the grandson of Esau. So these were clearly Edomites. They were devils. Okay, So let's prove that. And matter of fact, before I even do that, I'm gonna read a scripture because when you go into this history, it makes more sense as to why when you read the book of Esther that you had Haman that got in very good, with the Persian monarchy to the point where they even, Xerxes, Ahasuerus, he actually called for Haman to become, second in rank in this in the Persian Empire during his rule, and he didn't realize until Mordecai, the Lord used Mordecai to offset his wicked evil plan, his plot. He was set up because he was going to try to take Ahasuerus or Xerxes' spot. He was trying to take the throne, and that's why the scriptures say, "Never trust thine enemy, and never set him on your right hand." And this is Sirach 12:10. It says, "Never trust thine enemy, for like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness. Though he humble himself and go crouching, yet take good heed and beware of him. And thou shalt be unto him as if thou hast wiped a looking glass, and thou shalt know that his rust have not been altogether wiped away. Set him not by thee, lest when he have overthrown thee," which Haman attempted to until he was spotted out, against the king of Persia, which was Xerxes at the time. It says, "He stand up in thy place, neither let him sit at thy right hand, lest he seek to take thy seat, and thou at the last remember my words and be pricked therewith." Now he was dealing with a serpent. Haman was a straight up serpent. But see, you see how um, after Xerxes, which you had, Darius in power. Which Darius was? I forget which Darius. But notice how the Greeks, rose into power after these different battles that they had with the kings of Persia, because they had basically the Greeks had next, and that was pursuant to the vision that Daniel saw. Okay, so let's get into that. We're gonna go to first to Daniel 11, and I'm gonna try to run through this because I gotta be out in a little bit. This is Daniel 11:1. It says, "Also I, in the first year of Darius the Mede, even I stood to confirm and to strengthen him. And now it's like, and now will I shew thee the truth. Behold, there shall stand up yet three kings in Persia, and the fourth shall be far richer than they all, Xerxes." All right, and remember he was king over 127 provinces from Ethiopia all the way to India. So he was flowing with wealth. All right, and by his strength through his riches he shall stir up all against the realm of Grecia. All right, to the point where they had battles, and slowly but surely the Greeks began to rose up in power, especially when you had Alexander get stirred up. And we're gonna get into that next. It says, "And a mighty king shall stand up," and that's talking about Alexander the Great, "that shall rule with great dominion and do according to his will. And when he shall stand up, his kingdom shall be broken and shall be divided toward the four winds of heaven." And this is going into the four generals, which two of them ended up becoming two dynasties that were in total constant battle and conflict between each other. And Jerusalem, Judea, happened to be in the middle of it, so they caught the crossfire of those two battling dynasties. They was fighting over, who would have, dominion or jurisdiction over Judea. It says, "And not to his posterity, nor according to his dominion which he ruled, for his kingdom shall be plucked up, even for others beside those. And then this whole chapter just goes into, that dynasty war, which, you had the Seleucids, who had the realm of the north, Syria, different various areas up in that region, Babylon, Syria, and then the Ptolemies, they had the south. They had Egypt, Ethiopia, you know. So let's go to the Maccabees, or the first Maccabees 1. And it says, and it happened after that Alexander, son of Philip, or the second, the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Kittim, had smitten Darius, king of the Persians and Medes, that he reigned in his stead, the first over Greece, and made many wars, and won many strongholds, and slew the kings of the earth. And the Lord was dealing with Alexander, man. You know, he was going from town to town. The only place that he spared that he didn't actually conquer was Jerusalem, Israel, because he had learned about the prophecy of him, basically taking down everybody from the prophecy in Daniel, and that humbled him, and because of that, he actually spared Jerusalem. He had Israel in favor, you know, but he colonized everything else and basically changed the names. That's why Egypt became, Egypt. You had Alexandria, Egypt. All right, he colonized them and he changed the names of those different various places. That's when the Hellenism began, to mobilize through the earth, through the known world. All right, it says, and went through the ends of the earth and took spoils of many nations, insomuch that the earth was quiet before him, whereupon he was exalted and his heart was lifted up. So you already know he was, proud as hell, right? It says, and he gathered a mighty strong host and ruled over countries and nations and kings and became tributaries, who became tributaries unto him. It says, and after these things he fell sick and perceived that he should die. And according to the history, they said he caught syphilis, which, you already know a lot of when people catch that sickness, that's usually behind, homosexual activity. That you're able to contract that kind of sickness. So, more than likely he was a mo, which, that's how Esau gets down anyway. They could be super rough and they could be, very warlike, skilled in war. They could be, you know, hella masculine and still be a damn mo. That's just how it was, man. It says, wherefore he called his servants such as were honorable and had been brought up with him from his youth, and parted his kingdom among them while he was yet alive. And that's those four winds, you know, that got divided. Okay, and those four generals, I named two of them. You had Ptolemy the first, and you also had Seleucus. Then the other two was Lysimachus and Cassander. Okay, so they ended up, taking over, and you had those two dynasties spring out of those two men. It says, um, so Alexander reigned 12 years and then died, and his servants bare rule everyone in his place. And after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves. So did their sons after them many years, and evils were multiplied into the earth. All right, so wickedness multiplied because hey, when the wicked are in power, transgression increases. So that's when it began, and then of course, we had to, suffer. All right, so What I want to do is I want to bring this out. This is from the International Standard Bible Encyclopedia, and it's a lot of information in it, but I want to get straight to the point. All right, and it's dealing with Philip and the history of Philip and Alexander. This is a pretty lengthy read, but I'm gonna just read right through it, and then we're gonna hit the scriptures because it actually gives references to the scriptures and the Maccabees, which shows you that this lines up with biblical history as well. So it says, Philip and Alexander says, with the accession of Philip II, son of Amyntas II, in 359 BC, Macedonia came under the rule of a man powerful alike in body and in mind, an able general and an astute diplomatist, one moreover who started out with a clear perception of the end at which he must aim, the creation of a great national army and a nation state, and work consistently and untiringly throughout his reign of 23 years to gain that object. He wielded the Macedonian tribes into a single nation, won by force and fraud the important positions of Amph- Amphipolis, Pydna, Potidaea, Olynthus, Abdera, and Moronia, and secured a plentiful supply of gold by founding Philippi on the site of Crenides. All right, it's like a Crenites, gradually extending his rule over barbarians and Greeks alike. He finally, after the battle of Cher, Cher, um, Charonia 338 BC, secured his recognition by the Greeks themselves as captain general of the Hellenic states and leader of the Greco-Macedonian crusade against Persia. On the eve of this projected eastern expedition, however, he was assassinated by order of his dishonored wife Olympias 336 BC, whose son Alexander the Great succeeded to the throne. After securing his hold on Thrace, Illyria, and Greece, Alexander turned eastward and in a series of brilliant campaigns overthrew the Persian Empire. The Battle of Granicus 334 BC was followed by the submission or subjugation of most of Asia Minor. So this is how the Greeks, the Edomites, start to rise into power. All right, and they call these other lands by their own names, man. But really, they took on Japheth's name because they weren't the Greeks. That was Japhet, but they defeated them in their empire along with the Persians, who the Persians were stronger than the Medes. So they just took it all together. So you already know that a lot of those Japhites got pushed out during this time. They had to migrate until they was away. It says by the Battle of Issus 333, in which Darius himself was defeated, Alexander's way was open to Phoenicia and Egypt. Darius' second defeat at Arbela 331 sealed the fate of the Persian power. Babylon, Susa, Persepolis, and Ecbatana were taken in turn, and Alexander then pressed eastward through Hyrcania, Aria, and Arachossia, Bactria, and Sogdiana to India, which he conquered as far as Hyphasis, uh, Sutlej. Thence he returned through Gadrosia, Carmania, and Persis to Babylon to make preparations for the conquest of Arabia. A sketch of his career is given in First Maccabees 1 verses Salakia, First Maccabees 1 chapter 1 verse through 7, where he is spoken of as Alexander the Macedonian, the son of Philip, who came out of the land of Kittim, which is Cyprus, that island on in the Mediterranean. It says his invasion of Persia is also referred to in First Maccabees 6:2, where he's described as the Macedonian king who reigned first among the Greeks, i.e., the first who united a single empire, all the Greek states, except those who lay to the west of the Adriatic. It is the conception of the Macedonian power as the deadly foe of Persia which is responsible for the description of Haman, in addition to Esther 16 and 10, as a Macedonian. And this is what we're going to go to show you that even through the scriptures, you're able to trace their line through back to Haman. So these Macedonians were actually Edomites, all right? That just happened to conquer and colonize it from the original people, all right? It says, an alien in truth from the Persian blood, and for the attribution to him of a plot to transfer the Persian Empire to the Macedonians. And this same thought appears in the Septuagint's rendering of the Hebrew Agagite and Esther 9:24 as Macedonian or Macedon. So how does this all tie in? Well, that's why I read Sirach the 12th chapter. You go to the book of Esther, you'll see that Haman was trying to plot on the Persian throne, but he tried to, throw the Jews under the bus and have the king exterminate the Jews based on his evil plot. But the spirit was working with Mordecai, and his plan ended up getting foiled, and it backfired on his ass. It was found out that he was the one that was playing dirty. All right, and you see, even before that, going back to the time of King Saul, it was a reason why the Lord wanted Saul to take out and exterminate those Amalekites. But Saul spared Agag, the king of the Amalekites. So Samuel had basically had to, do the job, you know. And because Saul didn't hearken into that instruction, the Lord stripped the kingdom from Saul, which it was already appointed in the spirit that King David was actually going to sit on the throne anyway. But you see how far back this all goes. All right, so let's go to the edition of Esther, editions of Esther 16 and verse 10. And this is after, it backfired. So it says, and these are the things, when you read up above, these are the things that was said about us. But turns out it was this demon, all right, this kite, which I believe that's Alexander. I mean, I said Alexander. I believe this is vocab. All right, this was vocab in ancient time. All right, this is Esther 16 and 10. It says, for Haman, a Macedonian, the son of Amadatha, being indeed a stranger from the Persian blood, and far distant from our goodness, as a stranger received of us, has so far forth obtained the favor that we shew toward every nation, as that he was called our father, and was continually honored of all the next person unto the king. But he, not bearing his great dignity, went about to deprive us of our kingdom and life, having by manifold and cunning deceits sought of us the destruction, as well as Mordecai, who saved our life, and continually procured our good, as also of blameless Esther, partaker of our kingdom, with their whole nation. And because of that victory, um, we celebrate Purim. See, it says, for by these means he thought, finding us destitute of friends, to have translated the kingdom of the Persians to the Macedonians, which eventually that's what ended up happening, even though Haman, was put to death, because you still had Amalekites out there. And they was waiting in the cut. It It says, but we find that the Jews whom this wicked wretch have delivered to utter destruction are no evildoers, but live by most just laws, and that they be the children of the Most High and Most Mighty living God, who have ordered the kingdom both unto us and to our progenitors in the most excellent manner. Wherefore do you shall do well not to put in execution the letter sent unto you by Haman, the son of Amadatha. All right, and that got published all throughout the world. You know, and then when you read going into Daniel 7th chapter concerning the four beasts. This is Daniel chapter 7. It is Daniel 7:4 says, the first was like a lion and had eagle's wings, which is going into the Babylonian Empire. I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth and made stand upon the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given to it. And behold, another beast, a second, like to a bear. The Medes, and then eventually the Persians. Who are stronger. So it just disseminated into the Persian Empire. It says, and it raised upon itself one side and had three ribs in the mouth of it between the teeth of it. And they said, thus unto it, arise and devour much flesh. And this I behold, and lo, another like a leopard. And this is starting with Alexander. He knew he was that leopard. You know, he knew he was that leopard. So it was prophesied that he would stand up and he would actually, take them down, and he would be given the dominion. So it was that time for the Greeks to rule. And this was the start of when Esau began to reign on the earth under a major empire. It says, which had upon the back of its four wings of a fowl, the beast also had four heads, and dominion was given to it. Okay. And then, of course, after that, you had Rome that rose up right after. Okay. But I just want to deal with the Greeks. So pretty much Alexander the Great and the Greeks that came into power in Macedon, these were Edomites. You could trace them back to Amalek. Now, I remember the elder Malcolm from the Chicago camp broke this down years ago, and I don't know if that channel that he posted it on. I don't know if that's since been terminated or not, but I remember him doing a lesson going into it. You know, and I wouldn't be surprised if he actually went into it even further, because he dives right into the history. But this is why that's why it's important to know, because you're gonna have guys that's gonna come in here, and they're gonna push out confusion, you know, and that's why going back to Second Peter, the second chapter, but there were false prophets among the people, even as there shall be false teachers among you, and shall bring in damnable heresies, man. And you got unlearned jakes that's they soaking it up. They think this is edifying, you know. Now you got some people coming over here through. I better run from these false prophets because we're in the end. Yep, that's yay. Hey, the Yahweh Shai said, my sheep will flee from a stranger, man. This is a strange doctrine right here, man. This is a strange woman with a flattering tongue. But you see, people are starting to you you can't fool everybody, you know. Gotta leave wickedness right here. Never thought I'd say this, but you bros going the hell off. The Lord did. Yahweh Shai did perform miracles. Alexander is not an Israelite. Read. Yep. Brothers coming over here laughing. Yeah, these guys are a joke, man. You know? But anyway, Yeah, I just want to, do a lesson and set the record straight. All right, Alexander the Great was not no, he was not no Israelite, man. All right. When Daniel saw these beasts rise up, these were all heathen empires. So how would a heathen empire start with the rule of an Israelite? That doesn't make sense, man. Cut it out, knock it off. All right, you going off, man. Jafta, you going off, man. Alexander was not an Israelite, man. All right. So anyway, I'm gonna give all praise, glory, and honor to Yahweh Shem Shai. Hopefully this lesson was edifying. And to the next lesson, I'll say Shalom.